Conversación uno. This unit will be an oral quiz, and it is basically about having a very simple conversation with someone. The first part to the conversation is saludos. Saludos are, of course, greetings. So you can greet someone in a variety of different ways depending on what time of the day it is and who you are addressing. Hola is a way that you can address someone typically a little bit more informal, typically used more by younger people. Buenos dias means literally good day, and that means good morning, and it's typically used by more adults as more of a formal greeting. If it's in the afternoon, you of course cannot say buenos dias, you would say buenas tardes, and that means good afternoon. And in the evening, you would not use afternoon or morning, so you would say buenas noches. Now you need to pay attention that up here you have buenos dias, and here you have buenas tardes, and right here you have buenas noches. You need to understand that they are different words and they are used simply because they need to match the adjective they are describing. They all three mean good, but sometimes you're describing day, afternoon, or night, and because of that you change it from buenos to buenas. Some other information that you need to know about greetings. Hola, as I mentioned before, is really more of an informal greeting tended to be used by younger people. Buenos dias is more of a formal greeting used mostly by adults. And the evening time, the cutoff time, is a little bit different. They do things just a little bit later than we do here in the United States. So our cutoff from afternoon to night will start at 7 p.m. and go to 11:59 p.m. because at 12 it becomes a.m. or morning again. There's also some titles you might need to know when you greet people. Señor, and it's abbreviated SR, of course means Mr. Señora, abbreviated SRA, means Mrs. And Señorita, abbreviated SRTA, means Miss. All right, following along in your packets, attempt to greet each of the following people in Spanish. Number 1, your best friend. The answer here would be hola, and that's mostly because it's an informal greeting that you would use in a casual setting of talking to your best friend. Number 2, you're going to greet me or your teacher in the morning. What would you say to your teacher in the morning? Buenos dias, señora, since I happen to be Mrs. Qualley. How about your dad's boss in the afternoon? It would be similar to number 2, except for you would change it to buenas tardes, and depending if your dad's boss is a man or a woman, you would say señor or señora. Your principal in the morning. That would be buenos dias, señor, since we have Mr. Fleschner as our principal. An unmarried lady at night. That would be buenas noches, señorita. And the mailman in the afternoon. Buenas tardes, señor or señora. Now, another thing I want to point out is notice that if you use an exclamation point in Spanish, you need to put it in the front and turn it upside down, and also include it right side up at the end. This is not required, but it depends if you want to say hola or hola. So that's why you would use the emphasis of the exclamation point. All right, let's move on. Write the Spanish words that happen to be missing. All right, in the first conversation, you have two young boys high-fiving each other. Apparently, they meet each other. They're greeting each other. So they would say, "Hola, Juan." The next one, you have a younger boy greeting an older gentleman, seems to be balding, carrying a briefcase in a suit. So you would say, "Buenos dias, señor." A younger person is greeting apparently a teacher out in front of the school. It looks like it's in the morning. The sun's just coming up. So you'd say, "Buenos dias, señora." Next one, two older gentlemen are greeting each other. There's the moon and the stars out in the background. You would say, "Buenas noches, señor." The next one are two older ladies meeting at the market. Looks like afternoon sometime. "Buenas tardes, señora." And the last one, a man in a suit is greeting perhaps his secretary, who is apparently somebody his own age. And you would say, "Buenas tardes, señora," or "Buenos dias." It's hard to tell on that particular picture whether it's an afternoon or morning situation. All right, our next portion to our conversación uno is the question, "How are you?" There are two ways that you can ask the question, "How are you?" in Spanish. The first one is, "¿Cómo estás tú?" And the second way is, "¿Cómo está usted?" Both of these are asking, "How are you?" But if you remember from our unit last week, the difference between tú and usted is the informal is tú and the formal is usted. So if you're asking someone that is your own age, somebody you know well, or younger than you, you would use the "¿Cómo estás tú?" If you're asking somebody that has a title, somebody you don't know, or somebody that is older than you, then you would ask, "¿Cómo está usted?" Now let's take a look at the similarities and differences between the two questions. Obviously, they mean basically the same thing in English, except for one is informal and one is formal. The similarities of the question are, of course, the question marks, the upside down one at the beginning and the regular one at the end. Both of them, the first word is como, and the accent is always over the O. Notice the second word. The only difference is an S on the end for estás for the informal version and está for the formal version. Both have an accent over the A. It's just the S that is different. Now, the other thing that I wanted to let you know is, quite honestly, you could just ask the question, "¿Cómo estás?" and leave off tú, because the estás lets people know that it's referring to tú, or the informal you, and "cómo está" refers to the formal you. So you could just ask the question, "¿Cómo estás?" or "¿Cómo está?" That'll be up to you. Now, irregardless of which question you ask, the formal or the informal, you're going to answer it in one of these same ways. You could say, "Muy bien, gracias," which of course means "very well, thanks." You could also leave off the thanks and just say "muy bien." You could just say "bien, gracias," which means "fine, thanks." And again, you could leave off the gracias and just say "bien." If you are so-so, you would say "así, así." Notice the accent is over both I's. You could say you are mal, doing badly, or muy mal, very badly. So irregardless of the question, you're going to answer it in one of these same ways. All right, let's practice on our worksheet. It says define the following terms or phrases. So the first one, ¿Cómo estás? Notice that the tú or usted is left off, but there still is a difference between the question. So when you define it, it means "how are you?" informal, and you can tell that because of the estás. Define bien, gracias. That is fine, thanks, or well, thanks. Muy mal means very badly, and notice the exclamation points here. You don't have to use them, but if you do, one's upside down at the beginning and the regular one at the end. Así, así means so-so. You can tell it's the same word, so that should be easy to remember. Muy bien. Very well. And mal. Badly. All right. Answer according to the pictures. No one is feeling the same way. So each of them should have their own feelings or responses to how they are feeling or how they are doing. So the first guy is smiling. I would say if you look at all of them, he's probably the happiest out of all of them. So you would use muy bien or muy bien, gracias. Going across, well, I would say she doesn't look like she's doing awful. There looks like there's somebody that's doing worse than her, but she's definitely not as good as the other guy. So we're just going to put her at mal because she's got her hand on her face, kind of looks like she's doing badly. The next guy, well, he just looks kind of in the middle. Again, not as bad as the girl below him or as good as the guy above him. So we will put him at así, así. The girl has a little bit of a smirk. Her eyes are pretty perky, but she's not smiling full. So she would just be bien or bien, gracias. And then clearly the last girl who is crying is doing the worst. So that should be muy mal. All right. So go ahead and turn to page 33 now. All right, so hopefully page 33 helped you to review the saludos and the question, how are you? Now let's add to our conversación. The next question is, what is your name? And very similarly to the question of how are you, there are two versions. An informal version, ¿Cómo te llamas tú? And ¿Cómo se llama usted? Again, both are asking what is your name. The one on the left or in the red is informal, and the one on the right is in purple is formal. Now again, let's pay attention to similarities and differences in the question. Both of them have the question marks. Both of them have como, accent over the first O. Notice the second word. The informal version is te. The formal version is se. This is a reflexive pronoun meaning to you or to yourself. And since you or yourself would be informal and formal, there's a difference. So te starts with a T, just like tú starts with a T. So it's como te llamas tú. And notice llamas has an S on it, just like estás did, and como se llama does not have an S on it. Now, similarly to the last question, you also may eliminate the tú and usted. So you could ask the question, como te llamas? And como se llama? And leave off the tú and usted. Now, irregardless of which question you ask, again, you will respond the same way, or one of the same ways. You could say yo soy, and then give me your name, which is literally translating to I am, and then your name. You could say mi nombre es, and then give me your name. This literally translates into me, or my name is, and then give me your name. The last way is me llamo, and then give me your name, and that means I call myself. Now, quite honestly, I don't really have a preference, whatever is easiest for you, but if you start thinking in Spanish terms, obviously the third way, the me llamo, relates to the question a little bit more. You can see the como te llamas and the como se llama, so you change the te or the se to me, you change the llamas or llama to llamo, and then you put your name in it. But if that is confusing to you because of the reflexive pronoun, you would rather say I am or my name is, certainly use one of the other two. All right, so let's complete the phrases. Me llamo Domingo, como te, and your response should be llamas. Because of the te, it indicates to you that it's informal. And then blank llamo Catalina. The only response here has to be me. There's no difference whether you ask como te llamas or como se llama. It's going to be me llamo Catalina.
The next one, me blank Señora de Pacheco. And that would be llamo, because again, the response is always me llamo, no matter what. Okay, where we ended last time was with the question, ¿Cómo blank llama usted? So knowing that it's llama and usted, it indicates to you that it should be se in the blank. And then again, irregardless of the question, ¿Cómo te llamas or ¿Cómo se llama? You respond, me llamo Señor Sánchez. Me llamo Julia. And then now we're asking a question, blank te llamas. And remember, no matter what the question is, it is como, accent over the O. And then me llamo, and then you fill in your last name. All right, our last portion of our conversación uno is despedidas, or goodbyes. The first one, and probably one you're most familiar with, is adiós. Notice the accent over the O. Next one is hasta luego. Remember, H's are silent, meaning see you later. Another one is hasta la vista, also meaning see you later. And the last one, hasta mañana, H's are silent, tilde over the first N means see you tomorrow. Again, these are non-specific to time of the days or informal or formal, so you can use them anytime. All right, for your quiz, you are going to be working with a partner of your choice. You are going to run through this conversation twice. Once when you will be starting the conversation and initiating it by running all the questions. And then the second time through, you will be responding to your partner and answering the questions. Now, in the greetings, no repeats. So you're going to use all 4 of the greetings, even though I know some of them are specific to time of the day. So we're going to ignore that, but I want you to use all 4. So if in the first conversation you start and you say hola, then your partner cannot say hola, but they would say buenos dias. And then the second time through the conversation, your partner would start, cannot use hola, or cannot use buenos dias. So they would say buenas tardes, and then you would have to respond with buenas noches. Now I know it doesn't make a lot of sense literally, but without doing this, many of you would remember hola, and that would be it. And then remember, the next portion is the question, how are you? And give a response. And then what is your name? Give a response. And then the last thing you're going to say are the goodbyes. And again, kind of like the greetings, I want you to remember all 4, so no repeats. So if you use adios the first time, the partner cannot use that, so they might say hasta mañana. And then the second time through, you would have to use hasta la vista and hasta luego. All right, the last thing is just simply a review crossword puzzle that we will do together in class. If needed, you could try to figure these out using the clues on the left and filling them in by counting the letters. Sometimes the accents and tildes don't always match up just because Spanish is a little bit different, and when you create a crossword, sometimes that doesn't work. But for the most part, you could do this as just a simple review for the quiz.